that we need to use for our tweets. Finally, I'm going to hand you over to our keynote speaker today, Ali Crawford. Ali is an absolute pioneer of the Scottish CrossFit circuit, and she's currently the 21st ranked Masters athlete in the world. She is a wonderful role model for athletic, powerful females, and I think she's going to give you, I know she's going to give you a really impactful, inspirational talk today. Alright, so I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Ali Crawford.
Hi, good morning. Thanks to John and the SATPE team for inviting me along. John contacted me a few weeks ago and asked if I would come along and share my journey to the CrossFit Games last year. I'm pretty sure a lot of you don't even know what CrossFit is, and most of you won't know who I am. My name's Ali Crawford and I am a member of CrossFit East Kilbride, and last year I became the first Scottish woman to qualify to compete as a master at the CrossFit Games in America. So what is CrossFit? This is kind of how it normally ends for me. CrossFit is a high intensity fitness program. It incorporates the best of different sports, so it pulls in different elements of different sports, it's different types of exercises, and it's been branded the sport of fitness. So what sets it apart from other kind of programs, fitness programs, is the opportunity to compete. So there's lots of opportunities to compete, either in Scotland, across the UK and Europe, and the biggest competition of all is the annual CrossFit Games, and that is what I qualified for. As I said, I qualified in 14th place last year, and during my training, the BBC got in touch with me to ask if they could come out and ask some questions about CrossFit and about my training, and they did a little short video, which I have for you here, and this should hopefully give a little bit of context around what is CrossFit for those who don't know. Hi, I'm Ali Crawford. I'm proud to athlete CrossFit East Kilbride. I'm the first Scottish female to qualify for CrossFit Games Masters in America this year. I'm the mum of 2 boys. Started CrossFit 5 years ago and I absolutely love it. CrossFit is basically combative exercising. It's a mixture of anything that you would consider like fitness. So it could be swimming, running, weightlifting, gymnastics, bodyweight exercises, anything like that. And it's where you would do a workout for a certain number of reps, or you would do a workout as fast as you could, or you would do a workout where you try to lift as heavy as you can, and that's where the competitive element comes into it. That are kind of gymnastics, so like handstand walking or rope climbs. When I qualified for the CrossFit Games, and my coaches look back at previous games, there's always a swimming event, and I couldn't really swim, so we had to find a swimming coach, and I've been swimming twice a week, so that's another thing that's great about it. It kind of forces you to kind of go out of your comfort zone and do things that ordinarily you probably wouldn't have chosen to do anyway. People are a little bit intimidated by it because it does have a bit of a reputation of being really hardcore, so like, alright, okay, I need to get fit before doing CrossFit, which is a complete wrong thing to do, because the thing that will get you the fittest is CrossFit. So it's just about kind of getting people in and reassuring them that it's absolutely fine, you'll be fine. It's not just for folk that are hardcore exercisers. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what's involved. So as I said before, it's a bit of everything, so it's really good fun, and it's basically an opportunity for people to learn new skills as well. So you can do the fitness, but there's going to be things coming up that you maybe have never tried before. So my background, basically I joined CrossFit 6 years ago when I was 37. At school I was always really one of the sporty kids, into gymnastics and athletics and dance and stuff like that. I did gymnastics to a relatively high level, and the type of gymnastics I did was called sports acrobatics. So that was where there was a larger girl, which obviously was me, who used to kind of lift and throw a smaller, more talented gymnast. So as you can see by the size of my legs, they're obviously genetic, it's not CrossFit that gave me these legs. So I did that right up until the age of 25, so I retired at 25, so not before time. And then just started going to the gym, like most folk do, to keep in shape. I really enjoyed doing like classes and stuff like that, body pump, body balance, spin, all the usual, and eventually ended up qualifying as an instructor in these classes. I did enjoy this, I loved it actually, but I definitely missed the competitive aspect that I was used to, like through sport as a child and a young adult. At the gym there was a guy there who went over to America on holiday. This was about 10 years ago and discovered CrossFit. He was a PT who I used to train with sometimes, and he was always going on to me when he came back about how much fun it was and how I could be quite good at it, and he was always trying to encourage me to join CrossFit Glasgow at the time, and I was never really that interested, and it wasn't until CrossFit Skilbride opened on my doorstep in June 2013 that I finally decided to give it a go. So the definition of CrossFit is constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity, and it can pretty much cover anything. They say to you, you should train for the unknown. It can be anything, and as I said before, there's the opportunity to compete, so it's kind of what I was looking for. With my background in gymnastics, it was quite a strong background. A lot of the skills and movements for CrossFit did come quite quickly for me. And quite quickly my coaches, Simon and Ali from CrossFit Skilbride, recognised I had a bit of potential. They are probably two of the best coaches of CrossFit in Scotland, so I was quite lucky. And they certainly know how to get the best out of people as well, and they certainly got the best out of me. To be good at competitive exercising, you have to have a slight screw loose in you, whereby you're willing to really hurt yourself and suffer. If you're trying to do a workout which you're finding hard and you're trying to do it quicker than somebody else, you've got to be able to really push through and suffer really. To be able to try and move quicker when you feel like you want to stop, to be able to try and lift a weight when you feel really weak. And I think I definitely had that kind of mental mindset where I was able to suffer. Within the CrossFit scene, anybody that does it will have heard of the Open. The Open is a worldwide competition which is online, and anybody that's involved in CrossFit or does CrossFit is encouraged within their CrossFit community to sign up. And it's a workout, one a week is issued over a 5-week period, and you have that weekend to complete the workout and get it judged. And it's a great opportunity to see where you rank amongst your peers in your gym, amongst your country, amongst your age group. And to give you an idea of how big a deal it is in CrossFit, last year there was over 350,000 sign-ups to the CrossFit Open. 2016, as much as I hate to admit it, was the first year where I entered the Masters category. I fell into the 40 to 44-year-old category. So again, it's an opportunity to benchmark yourself to see where you rank against other women your age. There was over 19,000 women, and after the Open, the top 200 are then invited to go into the second stage called the age group qualifiers, and I managed to make that stage. I ended up this stage, finished in 28th position in the world, and my coaches and I realised that with a wee bit more focus in my training, I maybe had the potential to make the CrossFit Games in the next year. We decided to get a bit more serious about my training. We looked at where my weaknesses lay, we wanted to try and increase my volume in my training. Before I was just basically doing the class workouts like everyone else, and to make the top 20 in the world I had to be a bit more serious about it. My training volume increased to about 10 sessions a week, which between an hour and 2 hours a time, and I started following a specific programme to try and address my weaknesses and to try and get me in the best shape I could. I get quite obsessed about things in the sense that if somebody tells me this is what I need to be doing and this is how many times I need to be doing it to get better, I used to get quite stressed out if I couldn't follow it to the very letter, if I maybe missed a session for something come up with the family. And there's a lot of sacrifices to be made because I have 2 young boys, I work part-time, I'm not a full-time athlete. My garage basically got converted into a gym. My husband bought me barbells, bikes, all sorts of equipment so that I could do my training if I couldn't manage to the gym. So there was sometimes if I had to train, I would be up at 6 AM to do a cardio session in my garage, then working all day, then doing all the school club runs, and then back at the gym at 8:30 at night. So there was some sacrifices. When the Open came round, however, after 10 months of intense training, I did feel really, really good in 2017, and I ended up finishing the Open in 12th place in the world. So obviously got my invitation to the next stage. I did feel in great shape in the 12th place finish. I was confident that I was going to hold on to that and finish within the top 20. When the workouts came out, the second stage is a lot harder, so it's the top 200 in the world, so it tends to be heavier weights, more skilled movements, and less people have weaknesses. Everybody's kind of been doing it for a long time. But when the workouts came out, I felt good. There was none that were brilliant for me, but similarly there was none that were terrible. The difference in the second part is 5 workouts, the same as the Open, but rather than doing 1 a week for 5 weeks, you have to do 5 workouts in 1 weekend. So I don't know if anybody goes to the gym and you do a really intense 20-minute workout and try your absolute hardest, you have to do that again and again and again and again. Sometimes it takes you 2 or 3 days to recover, so it is a lot of work that weekend. You could try the workouts as many times as you like, but who really wants to do it more than once if you've given it your all? So I didn't repeat any that year, and I was happy enough with my efforts, except from one workout, which was the last one I did on the Monday afternoon, so scores had to be in by the Monday night. And it was 2 rounds of heavy deadlifts, handstand push-ups and front squats. And the first round took me 2 minutes, and the second round took me 4.5 minutes. So when I spoke to my coach after it, he did say that tactically I'd got it completely wrong, and that would definitely go faster if I had paced it a little better. He offered to come back in on the Monday night to judge me again, and I declined just because I was so tired. And I remember my husband saying at the time, don't wake up tomorrow regretting that you haven't given it a shot. But I knew I would be able to go faster fresh if I'd changed my tactics, but I was so tired by that stage. Unfortunately, on the Tuesday morning, I had slipped from 12th position in the world to 21st in the world, and I'd missed my space at the games by 1 place. The disappointment was obviously massive, particularly when my coaches and I looked at the margins involved, and if I had repeated the workout and gone just 4 seconds faster, I would have made the games that year. The disappointment was so huge, I'd devoted 10 months of my life to CrossFit completely. It's easy done, folk love CrossFit more so than I do, but I did kind of feel as though I had been training alone. I hadn't really been enjoying it as much. I'd been working on my weaknesses, so I decided just to take some time off. I went back to doing the class workouts with my friends, doing the stuff that I enjoy doing, which is normally the stuff that you're good at, and just kind of putting a little bit less pressure on myself. And that was until January 2018, where my coach Simon decided that we would try CrossFit East Kilbride to get a team to regionals. So regionals in the CrossFit land is basically the equivalent of the Europeans, and the path to the regionals is the same as it is to the games. We all have to do the Open, and then your scores are taken. Format for the team, 2 boys, 2 girls obviously. So we started training for the Open to try and earn our spot, and I started enjoying it a lot more again. Although the training intensified again, I was with friends and it was a lot more fun. We did actually make it to regionals that year. We were actually the only, CrossFit East Kilbride's the only Scottish box to have ever made it to regionals, and it was a great experience. But as a result of me working so hard to get a good score in the Open for my team, that same score also goes to your individual score. So I ended up finishing the Open as a master in 20th worldwide, which was not as good as the previous year, but I had a lot less training that year. And I was quite excited just to have a go at the age group qualifiers. When they came out, the last 2 years, whenever the age group qualifiers come out, I always drop down the leaderboard because it does become heavier, it does become more skilled. So, like being in 20th position in the Open, I wasn't that confident that I was going to be able to hang on to that. But when the workouts are released, 2 out of the 5 were in my wheelhouse, and by that I mean they had movements and skills that were really good for me and strong for me. My coach actually said if I was to write 2 workouts for myself, it would have been them. So he called me up that morning and said, you're going to qualify this year. We're going to do every workout twice. We're not going to have the same mistakes as last year. Even if we repeat and we don't improve, at least we've tried. So we did every workout twice. I can say that I improved one workout, no lie, by 1 second, and there was a lot of colourful language in the video that time. But it does, small margins are so huge. I now realise the importance of 4 seconds. I got my invitation to the games. I actually moved up from 20th spot to 14th spot, and I had 3.5 months to prepare. That was when the real work began. I started following a programme that was kind of periodised so that I was going to peak right in time for August. And also I had to learn to swim, as I alluded to in the video. I was generally that person in the swimming pool that didn't put her head under the water, couldn't breaststroke more than one breath. So one of the girls in our gym is a swim coach, and she actually helped me. We used to do 2 sessions a week, and she got me swimming 200 metres, 4 lengths of the Dolomites, he's got right, without too much rest. But then we also had to go out into the lake, because every year at the CrossFit Games there's an event in a lake. So I had to do a bit of open water swimming as well, which is obviously, when you're awful at swimming in a swimming pool, it's really scary. Summer of 2018 was obviously really warm, so actually it was quite a lot of fun, it wasn't that cold. Before I knew it, I was at the games, and this is a picture of me on registration day. So it was such a big deal, like it really was. It's hard for people that don't do CrossFit to understand how big a deal it is. It's actually a little bit surreal. You're actually at the competition, which brands itself as this is the fittest people in the world. I got a lot of free kit. I had to buy a case, an extra case, the way home. Basically, like I'm wearing gym wear with my name on it every day for the rest of my life. The experience was unreal. The funny thing about it is when you do competitions or when you work out, like you're confident that you're one of the strongest people there. You know yourself that you're able to push really hard. You get to the CrossFit Games and everybody's really fit and everybody knows that they want to beat the person in the lane next to them. It's a 5-day competition when you do 2 and 3 workouts a day. So obviously there's a lot of things that come up that you would consider your weaknesses, and it's quite hard to deal with that if you know you're about to do a workout with 19 other fittest ladies in the world and it's really hard for you. It's hard to deal with your weaknesses, and I probably didn't have the best way of dealing with it. I'm a wee bit outwardly negative, even though inside I know I'm going to do my best. I had to kind of remind myself that I had earned my spot there as well. I deserved to be there a lot of time, and eventually it was just all about fulfilling my own potential. It doesn't really matter anybody else's ability. I had lots of highlights. It's not the ice bath, that was definitely not one. I did a PB in the strength event, so we had to basically press a barbell above our head. I managed to PB and do 95 kilograms. So to put in context, that's roughly about 1.5 times my body weight. It was probably because adrenaline of competition, but also the Americans deal in pounds and not kilograms. So Simon tricked me into thinking that I was lifting lighter than I actually was. The 500 metre leg swim is another highlight for me because I completed it without drowning. It was my worst finish. I came 17th out of 20. And if my swimming coach had seen my swimming style after 100 metres, she'd have wondered why she'd wasted her time. But I finished it, which was a great highlight. And the obstacle course, the first event, so you do all this training and preparation to get in the best shape of your life, to get as strong as you can be, but CrossFit's trained for the unknown. Our first event was like a trail run into, I don't know, kind of army style assault course where you were doing cargo nets and swinging between ropes and climbing up 15-foot walls. So that was really good fun, and no amount of preparation is going to prepare you for that. I actually did well in that one too. And my best finish was my 4th place finish in the handstand walk, where you had to walk 100 feet in your hands over an obstacle and come back again. Also, one of the most scary workouts for me was carrying a yoke of 170 kilograms, roughly 3 times my body weight. Well, not quite, but on a good day. In practice, I couldn't even pick it off the floor, so I managed to complete that workout, and not all the girls did manage. And I suppose another highlight is, you've probably all seen, or if you haven't, go and watch it. There's quite a lot of CrossFit documentaries on Netflix, and it was just really amazing being at the same event as some of your idols that you've watched on Netflix.
And of course the biggest highlight of all was I finished 14th at the end of the competition, which was exactly my qualifying position. With hindsight, I think I probably was good enough for top 10, and there was a few things potentially I could have done differently to get that position, but it was a huge experience for me. So that was kind of the story. That's the story of how my journey to the games, and I did have some learnings from it. The first thing is sacrifice. If you have like a goal that you want to achieve, there's lots and lots of things you have to sacrifice. It's really easy to make sacrifices when it's your goal. The sacrifices from your family and friends are greater because they're giving up things to allow you to pursue your passion, if you like. My oldest boy plays football on a Saturday, and I quite often don't get to watch him play just because I have a big training session on a Saturday normally. My youngest son, he actually has a learning disability and needs a lot of extra help. And actually just 1 week before flying out to the games last year, we got a diagnosis that he had a mutation in one of his genes and had an actual genetic disorder. So that was obviously a huge moment for my family, but I didn't really have much time to dwell on that and kind of be with my family about it because I was still training and still preparing for the experience that I was about to undertake. The other thing you have to do is enjoy the process. Like any other sport, the training's not as much fun as the competing, and sometimes you get your head down in your training, and it's kind of hard to kind of lift your head and remember why you're doing it all. And I think as well, like me personally, if I had like a particularly bad training session or I wasn't feeling particularly strong, I do internalise a lot. So I think it's important that if you have a goal, to talk to people about it and to let them be part of it. And the letting others down is a huge one for me. Like, I like to make people proud of me, I always have, even from a wee girl. And I think that what I sometimes do is I'll be negative if it's something I'm not overly confident about. What I used to do is I would kind of downplay it. So to my coaches, I would say, I'm going to be terrible at this is going to be so hard, I'm never going to be able to complete this. Even though internally I knew I was going to give it my best shot, I am very much an all or nothing type of person, so I knew that there would be no half measures, but by playing it down to others, it's almost like I'm trying to lower their expectations so that however I do, it's going to be like, oh, she did a lot better than I was expecting. But I think with hindsight, I've realised that that doesn't actually help. You just have to be confident and just believe in yourself a bit more. And you do have to believe, because I wanted to go to the CrossFit Games in 2017 and I didn't manage it. It actually took me 3 attempts to make it, and I just think if there's something that you're passionate about, then you just have to stay in your path. There's definitely going to be ups and downs, but if you stay in your path. And also be proud of your achievements. Sometimes I kind of play them down a little bit. It's only when I'm asked to do something like this where I actually think about the experience and I think about the fact that, okay, CrossFit says the sport of fitness, but in the CrossFit world I was the 14th fittest person in my age. In the world, it's quite a big deal. And then this is how it usually ends. It all boils down to hard work. This is my first picture. And no matter how skillful you are or how naturally talented you are with anything, I suppose, unless you're willing to put in the hard work, then you're not going to achieve your full potential. Thank you.
Okay folks, what a fabulous way to start things off. A brilliant story of talent, no doubt, but also resilience, dealing with adversity and coming back stronger. So a brilliant way to start the conference. We're just going to take one last picture, Jonathan, if that's okay. Just to say a huge thanks to Ali for her time today. Ali has an affiliated charity, which is Glasgow Children's Hospital Charity, and we're donating £500 for that very, very worthy cause. So we're going to get a little picture with our keynote Ali with this check. Thank you very much. Okay folks, that's us good to go. So the very